Hi guys, it's Jackie Sims and welcome back to another video. I know it has been a really long time since I've uploaded a video, but I was just really busy with work and I had some other stuff going on. And you can tell it's been a while since I've done a build because don't have Clean UI installed in this build, but for those who are curious, I do have it now and I love it. I'm going to post a link below, even though it's not featured in this video. I think everyone should have Clean UI installed because it has literally just changed the game for Sims 2. So anyway, today this video is about a build for Viper Canyon. If you are new to this channel or you don't follow me on Tumblr, Viper Canyon is a Sims 2 story that I've been working on for a while now. It is set in the 1850s in Nevada, and this is one of the builds that is going on Main Street later on in the story. So there is a time skip coming up in the story, and after the time skip, a lot of things have changed in Viper Canyon, and so I was trying to get all the builds out of the way for post time skip because I didn't want to have to waste a ton of time like building a lot of lots and making a lot of families before I could just get back to the story. And I actually had spent so much time doing this gorgeous tailor and dressmaker shop for Main Street. And whenever I went to put the video together, I realized that I was missing like half of the footage. So I only have half of the video of me building the lot. But it doesn't really matter because when I was looking back at the video and the lot itself again, I realized that I didn't really like how they had turned out anyway. So I'm gonna completely bulldoze it and try again. And that's good news for those of you who like to watch my speed builds because that means there is another video forthcoming. So I guess I should actually talk about the build that this video is on today. It was really hard to find information about doctors in the Old West, mainly because they weren't all that common, especially in smaller towns and settlements like that of Viper Canyon. So a lot of this build is me just trying my best and giving my best educated guess as to what a doctor's office back then would have looked like. Whenever I do builds, I do try to look up antique photographs to get a good idea of what they would have actually looked like back then. But it was really hard to find pictures of a doctor's office in the 1850s or the 1860s in rural Nevada, mainly because I'm guessing cameras weren't super common back then. Doctors were even less common back then. So, as you can tell, I was kind of struggling with what to put down in the office, and a lot of my inspiration was taken from pictures of like the 1880s and the 1890s because there is just a lot more source material from that era than there is for the 1850s and 60s. But either way, I felt like this build turned out super cute. It doesn't necessarily give me like hardcore, like Old West vibes, like say my saloon, but I think it turned out really well, and I am going to be excited to feature this lot in my story. At this point, I have just finished the doctor's private office, and it was really difficult for me to decide on a class that I wanted this building to be. I think in the modern day, we think of doctors as having a lot of money and being generally of the upper class. But from what I can gather from my research, as limited as it is, doctors would have been more middle class in our modern sense of thinking of things. So in the end, I decided on a much more humble interior with lots of warm tone woods and lots of little tiny decorations, not anything super over the top. But I didn't want it to look super shabby, but I did want it to look, not like the doctor was sitting on millions of dollars. Okay, nothing gave me as much trouble in this build as the actual little exam room. I was really struggling, like I said before, to find like photographs of what that kind of area would have looked like back then, and trying to like translate limited information into The Sims 2, which is already pretty limited in its build tools. I was basically pulling my hair out trying to find a way to make this part of the build look good. You can see me kind of fiddling with the floor plan. It was because I couldn't decide if I wanted to have an actual separate room with a bed in it for patients or if I wanted the bed to be part of a big room that was separated by like a screen or a divider. In the end, I decided to go with a separate room because I was thinking that maybe if someone had like a contagious illness or they were needing to spend the night, it might just be nicer for them to be in a whole separate room rather than in a main room with potentially other patients being able to hear them and stuff. I don't know if other people do this, but I mentioned in my farmhouse build that I'm the kind of person who puts all of the clutter that they want to use all over the floor so they can kind of like mentally catalog it before using it to clutter up a surface. And that happened so much in this build because I was trying to get like a Victorian doctor's cabinet with all kinds of like medicine bottles and all kinds of different like herbs and stuff all over the shelves. So I put so much clutter on the floor for this cabinet. And in the end, the cabinet actually ended up being my favorite part of this entire build. I feel like it just looks super era accurate. It looks like something that you would have actually seen back in the day. And even though I had to use the OMSPs that I hate, the ones that are at different levels, like don't get me wrong, they're extremely helpful and I am so thankful that we have them. But I hate having to go and hit the bracket keys and click on like the 10 different levels to find which one like is closest to the surface that you're trying to get it level with. That is just so time consuming and annoying to me. But in the end, I feel like being able to clutter up the cabinet and the empty spaces that I couldn't fill with just the items in the slots ended up making the cabinet look great. And like I said, my favorite part of this build by far. I think because there is a lack of historical custom content that is like hospital themed, it actually ended up being more era accurate for Viper Canyon because it the doctor's office ended up becoming more of like an apothecary type place where a lot of the treatments look like they would be herbal rather than like chemical. And I think that worked in my favor in the end because back then in the middle of the desert with like no modern technology around, the best that they probably could do for most situations was herbs and medicines that were of the natural variety. So I am kind of glad that there wasn't a ton of Victorian hospital CC because I like that this build has more of an apothecary vibe. Okay, so at this point, I was looking for the syringe, and I had recently downloaded the syringe specifically for the build because I wanted to have at least some kind of modern conveniences, and I had put the syringe on the OMSP, but the problem is with certain OMSPs, if the clutter that you're trying to put on it is smaller than the surface of the OMSP, you can't use the hand tool to like take the clutter out. And that is exactly what happened with the syringe. It was so tiny that it had like sunk into the surface of the OMSP. And I had to go and find the syringe in the catalog again so I could get the actual color that I wanted to use. And this would have been so much more helpful if I had any way of organizing my clutter, but I don't. And I really need to work on that and like get all of my clutter and decorations and stuff like that sorted into collection folders. But that just seems like extremely time consuming to me. So I've been putting it off for a really long time. I wasn't really sure if older doctor's offices had like waiting areas like modern ones do, but I decided that I wanted to have a cute little one just so patients could sit and wait to be seen by the doctor. And I think the seating area came out really nice. It's very simple. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I like the way it turned out. And at the end, I'm just doing a little bit of last minute landscaping. The good thing about tiny lots like this is it takes about 5 seconds to put a couple of cacti and stuff down, and then I'm done with it. I like to add little tufts of grass to make it look like the greenery is starting to grow around everything, and then I'm done.